Hi, and welcome to SCW Live, the Q&A, back for you once again, answering your questions in the wrestling community. And I've got a special guest that's going to be with me in a couple of moments. But first off, let's put the intro. As I say, SCW Live is back once again, answering your questions in the wrestling community. I've got a very special guest with me this week, none other than Ovi Muniz from the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. Ovi, welcome to the stream. How are you doing, my man?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing really, really well, thank you. And it's late where I am. Let's put it that way. It's of course 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It is midnight where I am. In fact, usually this would be pay-per-view territory for me. This is not usually my sort of time zone, but I'm energized, I'm ready, and yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into getting everyone's questions here today. But if you're watching for the first time, then please like the video and share the video as well, and leave a comment below as well. You can get yourself a shout out answering your questions in the wrestling community. We've got some comments flying in nice and early. In fact, we've got a big boy at Fax John says, "What's up, man?" We've got Jofo in the ring saying, "Hey, hey, hey." And yeah, all saying hello to each other as well, which is really, really good to see. Just to say then, Ovi, let's talk a little bit about you, my man. How are you doing? Welcome, and tell us a little bit about your show.
Yes, well, hey, thank you once again for having me on your show. Like I said, I'm one of your biggest fans. But the HHW Show is the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. We started this podcast about 2 years ago, and man, we have such a success. We're about to start back up again next Wednesday. So Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the focus is really the storylines and how we can relate to the real world. The discussion that's coming up is the Usos. You know, the two brothers are not getting along. They have a disagreement about Roman Reigns. Is Jey Uso blind? Can he not see the big picture? Or is Jimmy wrong? Or is he jealous? Or what's going on? So there's like this big family issue that's going on. And we're going to be talking about what could happen in the real world. Do you have a problem with your brother? Do you have your brother with problem with your cousin and stuff like that? How would you handle that? You know, I mean, we could all determine the wrestling answer, but in reality, what's going on in the real world? So just tune in to the HHW Show, not only on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, but also in your favorite podcast platform. So it's real big, and we just cannot wait to start next week.
Absolutely, man. I have to say, I highly recommend it as well. Like you say, you have that realism to what's going on in professional wrestling. You like to really give a take there. And like you said, the Usos is a prime example. Their family, we can all relate to that. And that's what you guys like to do. And there's quite a few of you within the team as well, isn't there?
Right. I got Hector, I got Frank and Jace. So the four of us, we get together and we rotate around and stuff. But we're being sponsored by Clovercrest Media. They're a proud sponsor who's been for backing us up since day one. And we could have been more proud. And of course, I have to say this, SCW Wrestling, you know, you guys support us a lot. And Steve, thank you. And everyone else that's following us.
Absolutely, man. As I say, obviously, you're always one of my biggest supporters as well. So I always do appreciate it every time that I get the opportunity to come on your channel. It's always a lot of fun. So I recommend everyone go and check out the HHW Show. Really, really do highly recommend it. Just to say hi to everyone, by the way, lots of comments flying in WrestleMania UK. I'd love the Intercontinental Championship. So thank you very much there for that kind comment as well. Eric Travis is in there as well. So yeah, it's good to see we've got a lot of people here already. And like I said, going to go into your questions very, very shortly. Before we do, we will be going into the breaking news today, but just one small bit more, because wrestling isn't the only podcast you do, is it, Ovi? I just want to give a quick shout out for that other podcast as well.
Right. Also, I'm also a producer on other podcasts such as All Four Downs, and I started a new one called Ovi's Backstop podcast. We're strictly talking about the Boston Red Sox of baseball and Major League Baseball, and also covering college football. So any college football fans, check it out, All Four Downs. All that on the website, hhwshow.com. That's right, hhwshow.com. You can listen to all our podcasts. And man, I again, I like to share everybody else's. So if anyone else that's doing the podcast, especially Steve, like I said, Steve is my favorite podcaster. I like to share the wealth, because the wrestling community is so big, and it's always good to support one another.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring after all, and that's the best way to spread the word out there and let everyone know what's going on in the wrestling community. So, Ovi, fantastic stuff. And everyone, please go and check out. The link is already in the description as well. But let's go on. Before we get our questions in, a couple of bits of breaking news that have hit there. So let's touch on those very quickly. WWE has fired NXT referee Drake Wirtz. I hope I've said that correctly. And there's other talents that have been released from their contracts as well, including Alexander Wolf, Jessamine Duke, Vanessa Bourne, Skylar Story, Kavita Devi, Jake Clemens, I believe another referee, and Ezra Judge. Alexander Wolf, though, since actually making this news story, he has released a tweet saying his actual contract was due for release anyway in the middle of June. So I'm guessing that it's just not being renewed. What are your takes to this, Ovi? Are you surprised by the breaking news that's come here with a lot of these releases?
With everything that's going on in the society and the world today, people could speculate about contracts, but we don't really know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. My assumption is the budget. Does WWE have enough budget to go around? Are they making a lot of money just being stationary? We don't have fans, not traveling. So where's that income coming from? Not a lot of people are talking about that income because that is very important. And then as we get through to finish of this coronavirus pandemic, we're going to see more and more development in the WWE. I promise you that. Once they start traveling around the country, they're going to need more superstars in there. And I won't be surprised those superstars that are being released get called back. And there is a rumor out there that Selena Vega, who was fired from WWE, she may be coming back too. So it's one of those things that, hey, they'll dismiss you, but in the near future, they might come back.
Yeah, that's very true. Like you say there, I mean, Selena Vega, that's a hot topic that's been in the wrestling community for the last few days and meant to be at the PC as well with Simone Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, her fellow Asta Black as well on SmackDown. So there's lots of different bits and bobs there. So yeah, it's very interesting how it's all going to play out. And do wish everyone all the best in their future endeavors. And like you say, hopefully some of them will be back in WWE. I have seen some controversial stuff with Drake Wirtz online, but I haven't seen them necessarily from credible sources. So I don't want to say anything online here until I get more information on that. But Noob & Co is in house saying good evening, everyone. And Jeff Samuel is here as well. So it's up to SCW and Ovi. SCW turn heel. Yeah, you could say a turn heel. I'm just a night owl. That's what I've done tonight. Literally, I'm caffeined up. I'm ready to take your questions into the very early hours. And for you guys, it's just early evening in the stateside. So no, very, very happy that we can all be here together and hope we have a good, fun time ahead. We've got one more news story to go in before we start going to questions. We've got some free questions, but still going to want your questions as well. Marta Carello is in the stream as well and says how we do. We are doing very, very well. Thank you. Hope you're doing well also. And it's great to have you on board here on the stream. But a bit more breaking news then. And Ovi, I know that you're more WWE and NXT based. You don't really follow the other companies as much, but definitely want to get your take on this because being a Brit, for me, this is a bit of news that's come out, but I don't know necessarily if it's good or bad news necessarily because AEW Dynamite will move to TBS starting in January next year, 2022. But one thing I know for positive is that we've got a new show, AEW Rampage, which will be starting weekly on Fridays from August the 13th, which will be 10 p.m. Eastern, which is after SmackDown. So there's no clash there. And one other bit of news from it as well, that we will get 4 TNT special appearances in the year. It'll be almost like a remake of the classic Clash of Champions. So I'm guessing when you get those special shows that we've had, those in-between pay-per-views, that's probably what those are going to be. But for me, the main breaking news from it is obviously going from TNT to TBS. Is that, is that a big move? Is it a downgrade? Is it something that I should have concern about?
I don't think it's much concern. Look, TBS and TNT, they're the same network. They belong to the same product, right? But you also have NBA, the National Basketball Association, which they are already contracted to give so many games per week. So being that it's on Wednesdays, people are going to tune into TNT more than what they do to any other channels. So I could see reason why on that. And there are other sports that TNT covers as well. Right. And especially being in January is pretty much the hot commodity of the NBA. That's when the All-Star game comes in midway. And then we start looking at the future. Hey, the playoffs is coming around the corner. they're going to want the audience to be tuning into TNT. So is that a bad for AEW? Absolutely not. You know, like I said, TBS, it's the same type of network, and TBS is more broader also. So, and you could get it on demand. You know, now you can stream TBS and all those other networks. So you're really not losing any ratings or what might be it. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. And especially January 2022, I'm telling you, AEW Dynamite is just fine the way they are.
I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will be. Because the thing is as well, TNT, with those sort of things, like you said, the NBA and stuff, it's massive. So they can advertise that halfway through, like, go and check out later on. It's going to be AEW Dynamite on TBS or, you know, they'll show Rampage. So they have those opportunities to throw those out there. So, yeah, I mean, the only thing for me that I would have used in comparison is the WCW days. Of course, Nitro was on TNT. And, of course, we had, I believe it was Saturday Night that was on TBS back in the day. Thunder may have been TBS as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, it's the classic old days. But it's going to be exciting to see what the move is. I hope things go well for AEW. And yeah, let's continue on. But let's go straight in because it looks like we have got some comments in. And we need to start getting on some of the questions. It is a Q&A afterwards. So we've got some in already. But let's get first of our couple of comments that are live in at the moment. We've got Nubico that says that seems that WWE has given up the Clash of the Champions to rename it a Night of Champions. I haven't seen that if that's true. But are you more of a fan then, Ovi, of the Night of Champions or Clash of Champions as a pay-per-view name?
Clash of Champions to me is seeing champion versus champion. You know, who is the best champion? Is it the Universal Champion or is it the WWE Champion? You know, Raw versus SmackDown. Maybe we could have one of those again. You know, I know we have Survivor Series that covers that, but you're right. Clash of Champions. Now, if you talk about Night of Champions, let's take all the champions and let's have them all defend their titles. Now, that will be remarkable because we have seen, like in these pay-per-views, we're not seeing all the champions. Matter of fact, we didn't see all the titles at WrestleMania. We got that little bit of WWE WrestleMania SmackDown. Like, whoever heard of that before? You know what I mean? But, I'm with you. I'd rather have it called Night of Champions so we can have all the champions defend their title all in one night.
I couldn't have said that better myself. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I was always more of a fan of Night of Champions. Like you say, Clash of Champions, it is supposed to be a clash. And we had Survivor Series. We've had bragging rights. I wouldn't mind bragging rights being brought back, to be fair. That was a fun pay-per-view back in the day, wasn't it? Back in 2010. Martin Carrillo says that maybe all the reason for all the releases is WWE playing safe during the pandemic. If so, then why would they sign talent that they don't use? Well, that's an interesting point there, because obviously some of the talent, Vanessa Bourne, she's been sitting and catering for a very, very long time. But I mean, of course, it is what it is at the moment. We are, like we say, we're in a specialist time, as Obi said before, a pandemic, you know, with all forms of different forms of life. People have suffered not being able to work, forms of entertainment, theatre, everything. I mean, of course, WWE, they don't necessarily need to release these people. We've shown that through the financial side of things, but if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. And some of these names here on this list, I must say, if Alexander Wolf, he's being released anyway at the end of his contract. Some of these other ones, it could be the same boat. We don't have all the information with all of the talents. So let's see what more of them say over the coming weeks and days. But Martin Guerrero has one more here. He says, they should retire pay-per-views like Extreme Rules and Hell in a Cell and bring others like Judgment Day or No Way Out. I personally would be a fan of seeing less gimmick pay-per-views. What are your thoughts on that, Ovi?
I'm a big fan of Hell in a Cell. And I know that one's coming up in June, which is a big surprise, because it left everyone wondering what happened to Money in the Bank. And I know that's another topic. Extreme Rules, well, every pay-per-view is already extreme, you know? So you're right. I like to see the Judgment Day or No Way Out. I mean, Judgment Day is almost like Backlash or something like that, you know? Something that has more meaning. So I agree with you, Martin. I really do. I would rather have No Way Out or Judgment Day. One of those pay-per-views substitute Extreme Rules. Yeah.
I'd be down for that. I mean, for me, I always like Cyber Sunday as well. I think that one would work really well in the current environment, especially now Twitter and stuff. Social media is so much more advanced than what it was back in the day. But I agree that, I mean, Extreme Rules, I think it's had its time. I think it worked pretty well when it was One Night Stand. But Extreme Rules, I've always found it a bit of a lame name. I don't know. It's just been me anyway.
It reminds me of ECW.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is,
right.
I'm a big ECW fan, but the thing is, Extreme Rules wasn't under the original ECW. It was under that WWE ECW, which that completely flopped. So, I mean, yeah, it would be good to see, something maybe replace that at some point. We'll have to see. WWE, rumors are they want to shuffle the deck. So we've seen that now with Hell in a Cell. Let's see if there's more shuffling done later in the year. We've got Jofo in the ring who had a pre-question thrown into us and said that Daniel Bryan to NXT, what's our thoughts on it? Personally, I would love to see it. Ovi?
I do too, and I think there was something probably a couple of months ago that Daniel Bryan, even Randy Orton, they wanted to jump over to NXT and just wrestle with new future stars, to see where they're at, see where their game is. I love it. Have a veteran come in and wrestle around with our future stars. I mean, I'm all in, and especially Daniel Bryan. He is a good technician in the ring. And he is a good leader and an awesome role model. So that's something that NXT needs in that brand. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, I think Daniel Bryan can boost the ratings. And like you said, that role model, he's got a great creative mind. And think of the superstars he could wrestle in those masterclasses on takeovers. Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, Volta, if he was to come there for an occasion.
Hold on for a second. There it is. Pete Dunne versus Daniel Bryan will be a match I would love to see.
Damn right. Let's make it happen. And there's Finn Balor, Karrion Kross, Kyle O'Reilly. I can go on all night here. That NXT roster is stacked. So, yeah, for me, I would personally love to see it. We've got a couple of other questions that came in a bit earlier on as well. And I'll quickly go to some of those now. We're actually speaking of Volta a second ago. Wrestling by Waldridge. Let's go through his questions quickly. Do you think that Volta will ever get a short run on the main roster now? Of course, Volta's already said he's never wanted to go to America full time. But could you see it on a short-term basis?
Listen. If they offer him the money, he's going to go. Okay. This ain't CM Punk storyline or anything like that. Well, Walter, if Vince McMahon said, here, I'm giving you twice as more money than what you're making in the UK, he's going to go. Okay. And we saw a little bit a couple of years ago at Survivor Series, and I wouldn't mind seeing Walter versus Drew McIntyre.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
Payback. Yeah. That's WWE payback right there for that pay-per-view.
You might as well be the booker at this point. That would be fantastic to see, wouldn't it? We've got the pay-per-view names set up there. We've had that one before. We've got Walter and Drew. Yes, sign me up. I mean, I would love to see it. I personally don't think it's going to happen. But if you would give me the option of it happening, I'd say yes all day long. I'd be well up for that one. As well, another question that came in from Wrestling by Waldridge was, do you think we'll get a six-pack challenge between Karrion Kross, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, and Finn Balor for NXT title down the line? All seem relatively connected, which is very true in recent storylines. We don't really see the six-pack challenge that often, but would this call for an audible? I'd personally, I mean, we talked about something we'd like to see for Payback. If this was a takeover match, I'd be down for this. Would you?
Only if there's a discrepancy on the title. And I'll give you a scenario.
Go for it.
There was a match that maybe one or the other won. Right? For example, remember Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and a steel cage match, and the cage broke and both feet hit the ground. Well, which one hit first? Nobody knows, right? If we get something similar to that and have the other superstars get impatient because they really want to get that title shot, then I could probably see that happen. But that is a long shot for a six-pack challenge. Now, would I want to see it? Of course. Would it happen? Slim to none. I'm telling you that right now.
There we go. Slim pickings, unfortunately, there for Aaron. But fingers crossed. I will remain hopeful. But we'll have to wait and see. One last question then from him that he did ask was that with AEW going to TBS, what would become of the TNT Championship? Would it become like the TBS Championship, or should they actually turn it to the Television Championship? Ovi, give me some sense on this. I need some logic.
Look, I respect the television champion. And being old school, watching the NWA, which they had a television champion, I'd rather see that. But I would like another name besides being a television champion. At least anything but 24/7. Let's put it that way, right? But you're right. The name's got to change, and it will change. They're not going to keep TNT knowing they're on TBS. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? That's common sense.
Yeah. Maybe with the stuff that says, well, of course, they said we're probably being the greatest TNT champion of all time and stuff. Maybe they'll look to actually really retire that championship, and maybe they'll do something where, like you say, they'll give a full-time championship and not have to worry about the change of that sort of in the future, where it becomes TBS, TV Championship, or maybe a different official name that seems original for AEW. We'll have to wait and see how it will go down. We'll go back to some of the live questions. We'll go in and we'll go, because we'll flip backwards and forwards and say there's quite a few of them that came in pre-announced. But Nubico here asking a very interesting question here. What are your thoughts on Asuka's interview about her first experience with racism? I believe fans need to realize between the real world racism and racism in WWE. That's a very interesting point. I believe Asuka did suffer some of this recently with the pandemic situation. I think that's what Noob is alluding to. For me personally, I think just to say it short and sweetly, racism, it should not be accepted or tolerated in any fashion whatsoever. So it doesn't matter. For me, it shouldn't be tolerated. Ovi?
I agree with you 100%. And WWE does have a policy when it comes to racism, sexism, and everything else. How they handle it, I don't know. I'm not there. But there's no room for any type of racism at all.
No, absolutely agree with that. Jeff Samuel saying then, Ovi, how do you feel about Hit Row from NXT? Good stable. What do you think? And with Alexander Wolf and Eric Young for Violent by Design, and Madman Fulton is there as well. I'll quickly touch on the Impact one very quickly. I know Ovi's not really a big Impact fan, but of course these three were part of the original Sanity group, of course, that were part in NXT. If they all could be together in the Violent by Design stable, Eric Young has an Impact, that would be a lot of fun to see. The only negative I say to it is that Madman Fulton is with Ace Austin. Alexander Wolf could fit nicely into Violent by Design, but they have like 4 members already. Perhaps it could be slightly overload, but Wolf, wherever he ends up next, I would be quite happy to see it. And like you say, he has history of Eric Young. If he does go to Impact Wrestling, I'd wish him all the very best there. But let's hit on to Hit Row then. This seems like a very new, exciting stable in NXT. Ovi, what are your thoughts on them?
I'm always good with faction, but faction doesn't last. Okay, so I'm just curious, just like everybody else, how this direction is going to be. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna wait until I see where they're going with this. But I'm not going to make any decisions right now. I'm just going to wait and see. You know, I've been teased with a lot of factions before, and it came out sour at the end. You know, I'll give you a hint. There was this guy, he was supposed to be a hacker. I don't know what happened to that faction, but it put a bad taste, you know. So I'm just going to hold off on that and see which direction they go with it.
You could say that faction would need some retribution after the way they've been handled the last 12
I didn't want to
months.
say the name.
Yeah, neither did I, but here we are. But you mentioned factions there. Let's get a pre-one from earlier on. West Coast Podcast here. Fantastic, by the way. Go and check them out if you haven't already. They said with Imperium coming to NXT, Legado del Fantasma, The Way, and now Hit Row, which faction do you see sticking together? Which is interesting that it's timed after you said on the last one, if they were called up to the main roster. In my opinion, I hope Hit Row go all the way because, like you say, it's very early to tell, but there definitely seems to be something there. I don't see The Way going personally to the main roster at any point. I don't think Johnny Gargano and Candice will go up. Imperium, it depends on Volta. But Legado del Fantasma, there is something there with that stable. They really excite me. Santos Escobar as well, his English is so good. With Joaquin Wild and Raul Mendoza, I really think if they were called up, I don't know if they'd necessarily be main event, but definitely I think they could be upper mid-card with Santos Escobar. What of these stables do you think would have the best chance on the main roster in your opinion?
You're stealing my thunder here.
Sorry, bud, that's not what I'm here for, you know.
Legado del Fantasma right now is probably the best faction that you're gonna have, and especially if they get called up, they're gonna want a Hispanic culture moving into WWE. We did have it a little bit with Selena Vega and her crew, but whatever happened behind the scenes with her being fired from WWE and then all those releases, you know, I see Legado del Fantasma moving up. And see maybe Rey Mysterio have a little interaction with them. I can see that. You know, as far as Hit and Roll, they still got some time to find their identity, do what they have to do in NXT. You know, I can see them probably being the next Undisputed Era type scenario. But as for now, I like Legado del Fantasma. I think WWE needs them in the main roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want them to rush up there. I like they have that feeling where I feel they could do like the NXT sort of tag team championships with a team first. I'd like to see that. Santos, I think, could at least get the North American Championship. I'd like to see that also. But let's see how it goes down with them. But I suppose we stick there. Legado del Fantasma seems to be the best shout there. A couple of other questions then that came through earlier on. So let's go through those ones now, because then we can just stick to the live ones the whole way through. West Coast Podcast said, who should be the next one to challenge Bronson Reed? Of course, now that he's become the North American champion. Isaiah Swerve Scott seemed to be the first one to call out. Do you think he could be the likely candidate?
They have a lot of history together. They've wrestled so many times. They have great chemistry. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one that will be stepping up. And it needs to be. It needs to be somebody to make Bronson Reed relevant. Someone. I wouldn't pick anybody new that we haven't noticed. But I definitely like Isaiah to be up there versus Reed.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. I would like to see it as well. I think that would be an epic
Got to
match.
swerve that title, baby.
Absolutely. Jonesy Chats Wrestling left us a couple of questions as well. He said, what matches would you like to see at SummerSlam this year?
I do got one. And if you follow HHWshow.com, I already did a post there. I want to see Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. This should not be a WrestleMania event. This should be a SummerSlam event, because somewhere down the line they have to cross paths, and WWE has flirted already twice, and we have to say thank you to Jimmy Uso for making that happen. Okay,
yeah,
family dispute. They intervened with Seth Rollins. That portion there has not been settled yet. Okay, and if you watch WrestleMania Backlash, you saw Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns standing in the middle of the ring. Now, nothing happened, okay? And Seth Rollins went and attacked Cesaro. Something has to happen, because there's only going to be one true champion, one true face of SmackDown. Is it Seth Rollins or is it Roman Reigns? I would rather see that in SummerSlam.
That's a great suggestion for a match. I hope that's the match that goes down as well. I'm going to be in the Dream World on the Raw side over. I feel like split screens. We've got Obi on the SmackDown. I'm on the Raw side right now for you. Bobby Lashley, if fans are back, I want to see it against Brock Lesnar. That's what I want to see. That's the money match, the dream match. I don't know if it's realistic to happen, to be honest, but that's a match that I'd be really, really keen on seeing. It's hard to say with some of the women's action right now, because I think a lot of the directions will change, and I think it depends if there's drafts as well. But let's just go for the SmackDown side. Would you be a fan of seeing Bianca Belair, Sasha, and Bayley and say like a triple threat? That could be quite fun to see.
I know. Let me see. Sasha Banks needs to come back in the picture. She lost the title. She has the right to come back and try to chase that title. Bayley's going to probably interfere and be like, nah, I'm not having it. She's like probably the all-time. She's going to use that excuse. She's the longest reigning. And I think her time as a SmackDown champion is not going to happen. I think her being champion will probably, if she goes back to Raw. But I do see a triple threat match. It's worth it. But I got a feeling WWE might bring another surprise into the picture. I'm not ready to say that yet. But I think there's a fourth person. I really do.
You can't give anything away. I'm gonna have to try and probe it out you. That's my job here.
Well, I'll give you a hint.
Go on.
Relationship stays in the same brand. So if you know what that means, then you know who the fourth person is.
I really feel like it could just be the man. It really could be. I'd like to see it. If it could happen, that would be awesome. We are getting lots of questions coming on the live stream, so let's get some of the live questions up for us right now. So we've got quite a few people checking out, and thank you so much to everyone is checking us out here right now. We really do appreciate it. Martin Carrera, why did it take so long for Bronson Reed to finally win a title in NXT? Was he just not ready before? I think he was ready. I think the issue was that it's just when you have certain champions, that there's not as many titles in NXT as there is in WWE. I think it just takes time for them to get their opportunity. Johnny had been champion for a while, and I think it was time for him to drop that championship, because I don't want to say he'd outgrown the position, but it was time for him to give the rub to somebody else and let that mid-card have at it. But Bronson Reed, heck of a talent, and I love the way that Wade Barrett just shouts tsunami when he comes off the top rope to hit that finishing move. Ovi, what's your thoughts? Why did it take a while for Ovi to why did it take a while, for Bronson Reed to get in that position? Ovi's already a champion in my eyes.
No, well, you also got to understand Bronson Reed did deal with injuries. He had a couple of injuries throughout his run, and there were times that he wasn't on television. So that's the reason why it took him forever. He does have potential. He's been blessed off with Triple H. He's been saying that this guy, he got the skills. But sometimes when people deal with injuries, it's a little setback. And from what I've seen now, if you beat Johnny Gargano, you're good in everybody's book. Look what Damian Priest did. You know, it took them him, Gargano and him, to be the last two-man standing when they were on top of the ladder on that ladders match, right? Absolutely, and then as soon as Damian Priest lost the title, he lost to Karrion Kross. He went up to the main roster, and he's doing bigger and better things. So expect Bronson Reed that once he loses that title, he may be going to the main roster right after that. So he's ready.
Absolutely, yeah. He definitely is ready now. If he wasn't before, and I must admit, when I did a video at the start of the year, 10 superstars that I thought would have a breakout year this year, I had Bronson Reed winning the North American Championship. So I'm very happy that happened, just so the prediction actually came through. That was my one of my big things. But the guy is a heck of a talent. I look forward to seeing what he brings to the table as North American Champion. But Martin Guerrero had one more question for us as well. Should Triple H be in charge of NXT call-ups down the line? That's a very interesting question there. I mean, Ovi, what's your take on that?
I mean, who is actually in charge of doing all the call-ups? You know, we hear so many rumors about this person, that person, and then all of a sudden Vince is not happy, and I don't know. It's a debacle going on over there. I think Triple H should just be in charge of WWE. Period. To be honest with you, it's a better product. You know, when you got too many people sticking hands on there, right? When you have too many leaders, it doesn't go anywhere, right? So you need that one prime example that could actually make somebody a star. And Triple H has already proven it, that he could take somebody and make them the star to put them on top of the pedestal. So I'm with you. I mean, if it's Triple H, it could be anyone that has the same attitude, the same mind frame as Triple H. Put him in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole point is do they have room to do something for that superstar? I mean, how many call-ups have you seen they go to the main roster and then you don't even see them? Yeah. You know?
That's what it is. They need to have that story in place and that idea of not what they're going to do for them for literally a day or a month. It's what they're going to do for them for a year. They need to have that idea of what's next for that superstar. You look at you took Damian Priest there a minute ago, a prime example. He's gone and done great things on the main roster so far. I mean, he's been a great Royal Rumble performance. He's been, I believe, undefeated in singles action. Of course, he lost a handicap match. But WrestleMania with Bad Bunny, that's one of the biggest attraction moments. But what is the plan afterwards? So far, it's zombies. But hopefully going forward after that, we're looking Money in the Bank, maybe the United States Championship, maybe even the WWE Championship. They need to have the plan of where they're going to get from story to story, from motion to motion. And that's how you make an NXT call-up work. For the longest time, Elias seemed like it was working pretty well. Something that wasn't so over in NXT. He came up, he was getting heat with the audience. In recent times, it's not working as well. But the thing is, though, you look at certain superstars that you think would do fantastically well, are favorites if you want, and they're not. And it's something that's just a bit strange. I don't know if the plans are not right for them, not on the table, if it was Triple H's call or Vince's call. I mean, we take Keith Lee, for example. He's not had the best time on the main roster. And that guy, for me, is money. He should be the face of the company if he was pushed right over a course of a year or 2 years. Ovi, do you agree?
Right. Listen, before we even go further than that, you said the word Elias. Elias is one of my favorite superstars. I could see him like Randy Macho Man Savage or the Honky Tonk Man, the combination of all that. This guy has it, but he's not put in the right place. When is this guy going to actually go for a title? Yeah, you know, I feel like he should be the Intercontinental Champion, you know, if they do it right. You know, but I love his singing, I love his music. I think he got it all. You know, he could take that attitude, smack somebody with a guitar. I'm down with that. But it just seems so lame. He's always in that mid-card area. He doesn't need to be. He doesn't belong there. That's just my opinion. No, he needs to get those Jeff Jarrett sort of early TNA vibes going. That's what I want to think. There you go. That's what we need to get. We've got Jason Michael here for us, and he says, what are some of the matches you want to see at Double or Nothing, and who do you want to see become the mystery for the Battle Royale? Well, I mean, obviously, Ovi, not the biggest AEW follower, but so if you don't mind, I'll take a little bit of this one if you don't mind, Ovi. We know we've got a few matches in place already. What matches do I want to see added? Well, Dynamite started. I believe it's starting as we speak. So we're going to find out matches
matches very quickly. But the mystery for the Battle Royal, I want to see someone that's come in as an outsider. I think it's always fresh and exciting when you see a fresh face. So if there's someone available, someone like, I don't know, Andrade, that would be really cool to see if he's got the ability where he can actually go and do that. That would be my call who I'd like to see as the mystery, especially as they're building for that Triple Mania match for him and Kenny Omega. Perhaps even an Impact superstar would be quite fun as well, because, the winner of that Battle Royal gets a championship match. They get to try and get retribution for Impact Wrestling. That would be quite fun to see as well. For other matches that I'd like to see, we've got like Hangman Page and Brian Cage. We've got the Bucks, John Moxley and Eddie Kingston. I think that'll be announced tonight if it's not already announced. We've got the three-way for the championship with Kenny Omega, Pac, and Orange Cassidy. Stadium Stampede 2 as well, which should be really fun. So there's a lot of stacked matches already. I'm looking forward to see what else is added to the card. Maybe another women's match would be quite nice to see, because I like to see AEW, they have some women's matches, but not enough for my look. I'd like to see more added, and especially to the pay-per-views as well. Martin Guerrero, what partnership have you guys enjoyed more, Callis and Omega or Heyman and Reigns? I'm guessing for you, Ovi, it would be Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns at this point.
Hey, I like the way Paul Heyman has able to put Roman Reigns where he needs to be, but you also got to give credit to Roman Reigns because he comes a long way, and his microphone skills is by far the best as he's ever been, and them two together, it was just right. It's a great fitting, and they went with the ride. Now, as far as Omega and Callis, I don't know much about them. That's on you, Steve.
Well, they do have great chemistry. I think Don Callis was formerly the Jackal in WWE as well, and he was actually involved with ECW at one point as well. He was the guy that was a part of the network, would tell them to give some censorship to ECW back in the day before they stopped. I really enjoy Callis and Omega. I think both combinations are amazing, but right now I think Roman Reigns just is on another level. Paul Heyman as well. I'm a Paul Heyman guy. I have to be saying I'm guilty with that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what they do. I'm a big fan of what everyone does, but to give it what I enjoy more, it has to be Heyman and Roman Reigns. Randy Sam says that this is not wrestling talk, but what are some memories you thought of New Jack from ECW legend gone too soon? Ovi, was you familiar with New Jack's work with ECW back in the day?
No, not really. I'm sorry. Forgive me that, but no, I'm not familiar with the work. Steve, if you know more about it, forgive me on that one.
I mean, I think to sum it up nicely, New Jack is one of the most hardcore wrestlers you've ever seen. New Jack, if you thought there was a line that couldn't be crossed, New Jack would cross it. Literally every match was just violent in ECW. If you go back and watch some of the stuff on the network, literally New Jack would come out and the place would just erupt. I mean, like, all sorts of weapons would come flying into the ring. There would be blood as well. I mean, New Jack just didn't skip a beat. For me, some of the great memories, I will never forget him jumping off the balconies. That used to horrify me, but the fact he used to always be okay doing so, particularly when the breakup of the tag team, the Gangsters, that one always stays true to me when he jumped off through his tag team partner, which I believe was Mustafa, if I'm not mistaken, through the table. That would be one for me that I would personally hold in heart. But also, the Dark Side of the Ring documentary as well is a fascinating watch if anyone hasn't gone and seen it. But rest in peace, New Jack, definitely gone too soon. An ECW legend and one of the original gangsters.
I would like to say one thing is, and you just hit it on, and I did see the highlights and stuff, but again, I never watched too much of ECW until John Cena made his presence there. I'm a diehard WWE fan. Sorry,
that's fair, man.
Anyone that dies like age 58, it's sad, man, because you really didn't really live your life, and you never know what he had gone through, and he did suffer a heart attack. So health issues and everything else. My prayers and thoughts to the family and everything else. May he rest in peace. But hey, it's good to hear other people's stories. That, hey, man, when I watched it, this is what he did. And, and that brings me to be like, well, damn, I missed that guy. Let me go back and watch it, But to say that, hey, I watched him from the beginning, I never had the opportunity. And again, it's just about having so many wrestling content out there. So, but hey, he was the man.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go to other questions we got then. Josie Chats Wrestling, to completely different sort of side of this. Why did Raw Underground fail? This is an interesting question for me. If you don't mind me taking it first, Ovi, I didn't think there was enough. There was not really enough rules for Raw Underground. That's why it didn't work. It was hard really to look at it with Raw Underground and just make sense of what was happening. Sometimes there was a knockout. Sometimes people were pulled apart. Shane McMahon just kind of went, "That's it. It's finished. No more, no more." And it just, I don't know. There was just something didn't connect. I kind of feel like it tried to be edgy and stuff, maybe more MMA style based, but there needs to be official rules that I understand sitting at home. So for me, that's why I didn't connect. But Ovi, you might have been a fan of Raw Underground. I don't know. This is the first time I'm asking you. What were your thoughts of Raw Underground?
At first, I thought it was just a filler. Okay, remember, you have 3 hours of Raw. We're going through a pandemic. You know, there probably wasn't enough storylines. So it was like, hey, you know what? We need to do something here. You know, let's fill in that last portion of the hour of the Underground. But when things started happening, you know, okay, what directions are they going? You know, we got one fight. It was a good fight. The following week, there was no consistency. You know, you saw different superstars. You know, you didn't see it develop to where, okay, they want to really fight each other and then bring them back to the regular ring. We didn't see that, you know, and, you know, we got to see some of the superstars' faces, but nobody went anywhere. You know, what directions were they going? Absolutely nada. You know, I mean, where they at right now? They're backstage waiting to get released from WWE. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's sad to see as well, isn't it? It really is sad to see. Comment here that's come from is it Maj Raju? Thanks for your comment. Says up to us. He feels sad about the news of Paul Mooney. The cat was hilarious legend, and the guy from Beethoven, Charles Grodin. Wow. And he says that he would give SCW and Ovi their flowers while they're here. Thank you for the flowers. We really do appreciate it. And anything to add on this?
Charles Grodin. When I found out the news yesterday, I was saddened because my favorite movie of him was Beethoven, with the dog and everything. And I used to watch all his movies, and it's sad, you know. But then at the same time, we got to understand that, you know, we're getting older, you know, and time goes by, we forget that, you know, his movies. I was a kid when I used to watch all his movies, and then we forget we're getting older. They're getting older too.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, my deepest condolences to Charles Grodin and Paul Mooney, man. There'll always be legends, and I hope that this weekend we get to watch all their movies, like a little marathon or something, because they deserve it.
Absolutely, man. And like you say, condolences do go out there, because it's really sad to see something you don't want to see, unfortunately. Martin Carrillo is with us now, and he says that which WWE jobber has been released in the last 10 years that deserves better? For him, it was El Torito that deserved it. Which jobber then, if you could pick one jobber in the last 10 years that you think deserves better, who would it be?
Ooh, woo, woo. You know it.
Great shout. One of them is Zack Ryder.
I'm disappointed, man. I think that scenario with him and John Cena, you know, that jealousy part and everything, I thought they were going to go somewhere with that. You know, Zack Ryder, I mean, this guy got the body. He has the build. He won the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania when he went to the top of the ladder and, you know, pushed off the Miz and everything, right? And then all of a sudden he loses it right away. And then you don't hear from him.
Yeah.
And he's just a jobber. He's just taking pinfall. He's always laying on his back. And you'd be like, why would you do something to this guy? Got potential. And just it was just a waste of talent on WWE for so long.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think it's a great shout there. I have give a different name though, so I'm not exactly the same, because I don't want to be a copycat. Let's go for Damien Mizdow, or Damien Sandow, should we say, because that guy had some talent. That guy had talent. He managed to, you know, he took chicken, you know what, and you know he turned it into something golden every single time. Do you know what I mean? Like he turned lemonade into champagne a lot of the time. That's probably a better, nicer, cleaner analogy I can use right here. But I was always a fan of his work, and it's a shame it didn't work out for him in the end. But I really think he deserved more. One other one that I could say that could be under this, because technically she was used as a jobber, is Deonna Purrazzo. She had a couple of appearances on Raw. She's killing it in Impact Wrestling. She's like the most dominant woman outside of WWE right now, and probably putting on the best performances at the moment as well. So Deonna Purrazzo deserves a shout as well on that one, I think.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said Damian Sandow, man.
That's a throw. It feels like a
between
throwback.
him and R-Truth. I mean, if they two would have been tag teams, I mean, that would have been the most epic comedian tag team ever.
Oh, damn right. You can't argue with that one there. SC Williams here for us next now and says, do we feel that AEW needs to hire Jim Johnston? Don't believe that because they don't want to be WWE. And can they bring AEW that excitement with entrances, character, along with what do you guys think? Well, I'm guessing this is all based with the music. Obviously, the music, it brings character, it brings something special to everybody. And like we take those Jim Johnston themes from WWE, with the New Age Outlaws. Oh, you didn't know? Straight away when it hits, you know what's happening. So with that sort of thing, you want that with those sort of themes. Some AEW songs do grow on me, but I think even WWE needs Jim Johnston right now. I think that he was epic back in the day.
I watched AEW when they first came out, and it just reminded me of the old WCW. It's so dried and everything. And you're right. They're look, the name itself at the beginning, we were so excited. We didn't care about the music, right? No. But at this point now, we need music to pump us up. Like, oh, like that first note, you should already know who that superstar is.
Absolutely.
And, on my show, we do the top 10, and the top 10 will use their music, the theme music, because look, you could take that music, go to the gym, hear the top 10 and start working out, or go on the run. I mean, you're always pumped up. Yeah, they need somebody like that, or somebody close to Jim Johnson. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more with that as well. Noob and Co, what were your thoughts on Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair's title reigns so far? Noob feels that Bianca's reign has been very interesting. Rhea Ripley, way too soon. Should have been Asuka versus Charlotte at WrestleMania 37. Well, that was the initial plan, wasn't it? But then Charlotte got pulled. I suppose WWE had to pull an audible. They called Rhea up sooner. She was supposed to be the Raw After Mania debut this year. But I do kind of feel like with Bianca, I would agree. She's having a great run so far. Rhea Ripley is having a good run, but I just kind of feel something's not quite connecting on the dots. Ovi, can you enlighten me and tell me what you think on the situation?
Look, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, they deserve to be champions, but you got to have some logic. Okay, let's go back to WrestleMania 36. Charlotte did defeat Rhea Ripley. Why is that storyline not in the presence? Why isn't that Charlotte Flair not saying, hey, I beat you last year. I whipped you so bad that I took the NXT title away from you, right? Why are we not hearing that? I want to hear that in the storyline, okay? But we're not having it. And you're right. That's what's missing. It's not about. And then let me start over. Charlotte Flair is almost like Christian. Give me one more. Give me one more. Right? And it gets so annoying that it gets a lot of people talking. Why does Charlotte Flair always gotta be in everybody's picture? Well, she is the star for one thing, but two, look, she's beaten Rhea Ripley before. I want to see them two go one-on-one and just squash it already. Let's see who's gonna. Can Rhea Ripley beat Charlotte Flair one-on-one? That's what I want to know.
That's the million-dollar question coming out of that there. And Bianca Belair, I mean, would you say she's having a great run so far?
Oh, absolutely, man. She got the talent, she got everything, and I think Bayley set her up for success leading on to WrestleMania 37. So you got to thank her for doing that. And for them two to continue the battle, it's just epic right now.
Absolutely. And just because I know Noob is such a big Oscar fan, give us a few thoughts on Oscar. I mean, like, what next for her? Do you see in a title run on Raw soon? Does she need to go to SmackDown? What positive direction can we give Oscar going forward?
Man, to be honest with you, I think I need Oscar to be like a strict heel. Like, change that character, change that mood of always jumping up and down, like you're going to give her the title or give her a cake or something. I want her to be mean and evil. That's the Oscar that we need, and she'll get her chance to get that title back.
Do you feel like almost not like the NXT Oscar, but maybe like Kabuki Warrior Oscar, where she there was that time where she was just really evil and like you just
she put that green mist out there. I mean, you could continue that. I don't think she needs that green mist. I miss that old hardcore Asuka that I saw in NXT, that she was undefeated. She was just taking out the competition. I miss seeing that. I mean, you see that little goofiness and oh, everybody ready for Oscar. I'm like, all right, stop the mic. Just whip some ass. Let's go. Come on.
But let's move on to our next question. Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Which Raw superstar would you like to see built like Roman Reigns and why? So obviously we've got Roman Reigns on SmackDown, the tribal chief, that we have to acknowledge him. He's the head of the table. On Raw, I mean, which superstar would you like to see built like Roman Reigns and why?
Raw. That's great because Raw is a little bit like every which way direction, right? And that's kind of hard to pick out because I like Ricochet. You know, Ricochet he was flying high, like I said, NXT transitioning to Raw, and then Paul Heyman was taken out of the picture, and kind of like Ricochet just fell apart, right? Ricochet could be that guy. I'm a big fan of Ricochet. They're not using him the right way. I got a feeling that he could be set up like Roman Reigns. I know he's small and skinny and everything, but he could be very deadly with his high flying athleticism. We need something like that. We need something like the young Rey Mysterio type deal. I think he could have that opportunity. If they could build him right, he's the man.
Sounds a good answer to me there. I mean, of course, I feel Drew McIntyre kind of is that guy on Raw. He is that position. But, I mean, of course, it feels like the moment he needs a break from that top scene. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Drew versus Roman further down the line. But, I mean, looking at it as well, Lashley is kind of built like that as well. He's got MVP, the manager there. He hasn't got the stable anymore. Of course, Tribal Chief Roman Reigns has kind of got the Usos. We've lost the Hurt Business, one of the worst mistakes of the year, in my opinion. But to give a different name, we need a different name here because I feel that's the Jonesy wants someone that's fresh that we haven't seen. And I think that perhaps Damian Priest is a good shout. And I think that Keith Lee is the other. I think those are the two. If you look on Raw for potential, in my opinion, those are the ones that could go to the moon and actually main event the card.
But we could also put in Jinder Mahal. I mean, he's coming back. He has his own faction. I could see him built that way, you know.
Yeah.
But what about Elias? You know, get rid of that musical gimmick and put him as a star. I mean, we talked about him before. I think those two will be beneficial. Or John Morrison, break him apart with the Miz. He don't need the Miz anymore.
He's not going to have the Miz for a while now. Miz is apparently out now with an ACL injury. Rumors are that could be quite a number of months he could be out for. So we do wish him the speediest of recovery. It is a shame. And hopefully he'll come back soon. But John Morrison, heck of a talent. I do agree that John Morrison should definitely be used better on Raw now in the meantime, rather than doing the silly comedy, if you want, than what he's been doing. We've got Danny Barron with us now. Danny, thank you for checking that stream. It says, do you think that wrestling is not bringing that excitement because of the fans? He misses them. And why? To me, Bray and Cena and Brock, we need fans, and Becky to return as well. I'm guessing with those, you need those to return with the fan base, and I think that would be quite exciting to see if and when we do get fans back. Ovi, I miss fans so much. You must do as well.
I don't like the audio. I think the audio really ruins the whole product and everything else. And these superstars will tell you that they need the fans because they feed off the fans and be more creative in the ring. And I know there's some dull moments and stuff like that. We get shorter wrestling matches. Look at the pay-per-view. It's always been short. You know, it only lasts like 2.5 hours and so instead of 4 hours. But you're right. I agree with you, Danny. We do miss the fans, and soon it will happen. Like in my state right now, here in the state of Connecticut in the United States, the pandemic's been lifted as of today. You know, we don't have to wear a mask anymore. In Boston, Massachusetts, the stadiums there starting May 29th, the pandemic has been lifted. People could walk around without masks. So hopefully, you know, by SummerSlam, SWE is trying to make it happen by August 22nd. We may see that. You know, we might see full capacity fans, and hopefully WWE will decide to start traveling again.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope so. I mean, I believe the rumors at the moment are around July time. So fingers crossed we will get those fans back soon. I think it's July 16th SmackDown, I think, is the target date at the moment, which I believe is just before Money in the Bank, which I think will be an appropriate first pay-per-view for fans to come in. There are a number of comments in this, so we will get through all the questions that have come through. So don't hesitate. Don't worry. We are getting to you guys very shortly. Just saying, I have noticed that official TNT 2K is coming saying, evening, guys. Hope you are well. We've got lots of questions that have come in. That is old one there from Jonesy. I'll take that one away for us in a couple of seconds. But we need to get this question up here for us now. Should Karrion Kross versus Roman Reigns happen at WrestleMania 38? Karrion Kross wins the Royal Rumble and then is the one to dethrone. Legit don't see Big E as the one to dethrone him. That's an interesting proposition. I mean, the fact is Karrion Kross versus Roman Reigns, that feels like a big money match. Of course, it's got Scarlett in the background. Is that a match you'd like to see?
I'm not sure if I'm ready to see that. I mean, but that is great. I mean, first we need to get Karrion Kross to get called up, right? But if he does, that will be a perfect match. I agree with you, Alyssa, 100%. Get a call up, gets to SmackDown. Karrion Kross will be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns, and Kross will be the head of the not only head of the table, but he'll definitely say TikTok.
Absolutely. And that's not just a phone app either by any means. But yeah, Alyssa, thank you for your question. That's an awesome one just come through just then. Curtis John there. What do we think that Regal is going to do with the Cruiserweight belt? Maybe a tournament, maybe send some Raw and SmackDown guys there too. And do you think Ricochet, his tweet has made him look like a cocky heel? Of course, Ricochet has said some things about him being the best high flyer. I think he said a couple of things as well, that a deleted tweet that seemed to be taken quite negatively towards Io Shirai. That got a bit of backlash. So I think that's why I've seen with the cocky heel. I mean, for me, looking at it, I would say with Ricochet's tweet, yeah, perhaps he could have worded that better. I get where he was trying to go with it, but it wasn't handled the best. So yeah, and he's just got himself back on TV as well. So let's hope he's not punished too much for it. But yeah, with the Cruiserweight Championship in NXT, how do you see it? Raw, SmackDown guys, new signings. What would you like to see? It was teased this week. We're going to do something to spice up the Cruiserweight division.
I like to see the Cruiserweight go to each brand, like the women's tag team titles, right? They go back and forth from Raw to SmackDown. So why not the Cruiserweight? There ain't that many Cruiserweights in WWE. They could go to all four brands, 205 Live, Raw, Smack. I mean, bring it on. I mean, look, that belt went all the way to UK and back. So why not?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, like
Right?
you say, Jordan.
You got
Jordan
a great
Devlin.
point, Curtis.
Yeah, he does indeed. I'd like to see Buddy Murphy come back and challenge for that championship. I think that would be quite a good shout. You know, there are some people that are not being used. Yeah, there are people not being used. So hopefully we see some people that are, you know, being brought that are not being used. I will also turn around and say that hopefully someone like Blake Christian will get the opportunity in WWE, because Blake Christian, heck of a talent on the independent circuit, was doing some phenomenal matches in Impact Wrestling earlier this year. If you haven't seen him, go back and check them out on Impact Plus. Highly recommended. And yeah, I mean, hopefully will drop in NXT soon. He has done a couple of appearances as a bodyguard so far. So we could see
one more other superstar is Angel Garza.
Oh, I mean, yes.
I mean, he was a former Cruiserweight champion. Let's get him back in there. Let's make him legit again.
Absolutely. One of your former guests as well. Do you know, he's not in WWE right now, but I know you had him on the show. I'd love to see Leo Rushmaker come back and go into the Cruiserweight Championship. That guy was awesome.
He is doing phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, if you ever get him in your show, he is an awesome person to talk to on and off the screen. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, but I give you his digits pretty soon. Don't worry about it. I got you, Steve.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. It's almost like an inside scoop come out to everyone now. They know that one now. It's out there in the YouTube dirt sheets. That one is going to be. Martin Carrera there says, which WWE superstars have gained the most by going to the opposite brand in the last draft? We mentioned someone like Buddy Murphy, who's not benefited. Who do you think has benefited so far, actually switching shows from last October so far?
Well, we got to talk about Big E. I mean, this guy became the Intercontinental Champion. Now that he's not in the run for the Intercontinental Champion, hopefully we'll see him make that run towards Roman Reigns. A lot of people are speculating that match could happen. I would like to see it happen. It's a long shot for him to be the Universal Champion. I don't see it if it's anytime soon, because Roman Reigns is at another level. But I definitely say that Big E has benefited out of everybody that according to the last draft. So Martin, I would like to hear your view too, man. I picked Big E. Steve, what you got?
I'll have to slide through the comments. We've got quite a few in, but I'll try. If they do come in with them, drop them in there. I will call and put them on the screen as well. But what I will say is quickly, I will go with another Intercontinental Champion, the current one. I think Apollo has actually gained a lot from going from Raw to SmackDown. I think that definitely has been one of the major draft ones that has worked really, really well. To think of it as well, I'm trying to think if there's a couple of other names that spring to mind at the moment. But I mean, Kevin Owens has not done a bad job on SmackDown. He actually was in the championship picture for a while. hopefully could be a contender for Money in the Bank. We'll have to wait and see. And speaking of Money in the Bank, Alex Radford says, who do you think should win Money in the Bank? And who you think is the best, is the part of the Diamond Mine from NXT? So let's start with Money in the Bank. Who do you want to see win it over? I think I've got an idea from the men's side.
This one, it all depends. I think if you put in all the heavyweights in there, I think that would be better. I know last year we had all the lightweights pretty much, right? You got to give it to Damian Priest, man. Damian Priest is hot. Unless Keith Lee comes out of for whatever health issues he's facing right now, I can see him. But my money right now, if it's on Raw, a Raw winner, got to be Damian Priest.
I like it. It's a good shout. I think it's a sensible shout as well. I do see Priest being in the match. I think Cesaro, there's a shout he could be the one that perhaps could be in that position. But another one I will say on the outside of the box, I said it a second ago, Kevin Owens, I want to see win the Money in the Bank because KO is someone that should be a top guy in WWE. Should have had more championships by now. Should have had more world championships. But there just is that something that stops him on the end there. He gets that final part and something happens. He changes brand or, a bit of change of direction. With KO as well, he's a babyface now, but you get a good heel turn out of KO with the Money in the Bank briefcase. So there's ideas that I think could work for him to do that, but we'll have to wait and see as and when and how it would go down. But would you be a fan of that?
Look, Kevin Owens is talented whether he is a babyface or a heel. We call it the tweener. He's the best tweener of WWE. So him winning it, I got no problems whatsoever. He could tease on both brands to see which one he'll pick. And he will catch you with that stunner.
Absolutely, indeed. And for the women's, I mean, who would you see the women's? For me right now, I'd have to go personally with Shayna Baszler as my want. But I wouldn't be surprised seeing someone like Alexa Bliss winning it. What would you feel?
Nah, I got to give it to Naomi. I think Naomi deserves to have that spotlight, honestly. She got great singles competition. She's been a tag team. She's been marketable all the way around for WWE. And I think it's her time, her solo, to come back and become champion again. Why not? Give her that Money in the Bank briefcase.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, no, I think that would be a good shout there. I mean, you can imagine her in the spotlight. She definitely would feel the glow, wouldn't she? There's no arguments with that. We've got Joe Dawn with us here. It says, Miz's injury, do you think John Morrison should get a push now? Underrated star. And bring in Tyre. Do you think the Miz needs to be repackaged when he comes back? More strong and ideas for that. Well, hopefully Miz will not be a zombie when he comes back. That's what I'm hoping. Because after this weekend, that definitely was something that's given me nightmares. And I can say that truly as a wrestling fan, but we've already sort of discussed it a little bit. But John Morrison definitely deserves a push. If Frankie Monet was there by his side, do you think that partnership could work as well, like Miz and Maurice did back in 2016?
I would rather, and I think I said this earlier in the show, I'd rather see Morrison separate from the Miz, have like that separation 2.0. Back in the days, the Miz turned on John Morrison. Why not John Morrison turn his back on the Miz?
It'd be interesting.
Now, in this storyline right now, the Miz is injured. We don't know what the extent is. At the max, 9 months. So that's a long, long time. And for John Morrison, he has an opportunity now to shine. And he is a former world champion and other independent wrestling. He could do the same thing here with WWE. I would love for him to get pushed. He deserves to be a singles competitor.
Yeah, he deserves a shot, doesn't he? Let's be fair. I think now he would be someone you had throwing Money in the Bank because I think he's good for the spots. He's used to ladder matches, and he had a great match at WrestleMania last year, actually, in the PC. So I'd like to see that position. I'd like to see John Morrison given that opportunity. It would be nice to see. I would like to see him with Tyre or Frankie Monet. I think that partnership could really work well together. And then, like you say, when The Miz does come back, whether it's 9 months, whenever it is, I think they stay them together and they turn on The Miz. I think that's a great idea.
I don't think The Miz is going to get repackaged, though. The Miz is going to be The Miz. He's going to be the most annoying guy, I'm telling you. And he fits right for WWE.
It might be a blessing in disguise for him, actually, that he's not going to actually put up with the zombie stuff. By the time he comes back, I think everyone would have long forgotten that. So, I think The Miz stays The Miz, and he'll be the A-lister and most must see. Martin Carrillo, have you seen the guys? Have you seen Roman's promos, on Twitter? They're amazing. The man is savage, even to his own family. I haven't seen them. Ovi, have you?
No, I've seen it trending, But it's no different than what he does in SmackDown, on television. I mean, this guy got a lot of, you got a, let's put it this way, and to say it nicely, he's doing a wonderful job. I like his character, and just keep on. I don't want him to change anything. He's perfect as a heel. He's all right. He's all right in my book. He is a savage.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, if you judge the way he is on TV with the superstars in ring, I love the 39 line he did with Cesaro last week of how many world championship matches he's been in. I need to go and check these out. In fact, after this, that's exactly what I'm doing. I don't care what time of the morning it is. I'm going that as soon as I come off of this stream. Noob & Co. has said that saw a tweet from Oscar earlier today on Twitter, and she stated that America is slowly recovering from COVID-19. Is she planning to take some time off from WWE? You said earlier on there about Oscar, like what she could potentially do, but do you think actually just a bit of a break from TV might be a good idea as well?
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if they don't have a storyline for her, I mean, there's nothing wrong with her stepping back and coming right back in the picture. And it all depends on how is it going to be with the storyline with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. What's going to happen there? Or are they going to create more female superstars? But if Asuka was to step back, then I expect Eve to come in, all right, and do a little more promos because she is set to come back. So we'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't mind that. And I don't think anyone's going to miss Asuka if she takes some time off.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, indeed. We've got official TNT 2K in the house and saying to show some love on the live stream. Love to you as well, man. Hope you are doing well. And go and support him on YouTube as well. Does some fantastic wrestling content there. Does shows like all the time. Like it's the video game style, but you get literally like storylines, factions. It's a lot of fun. So I recommend to go and subscribe to it. Check it out. It's honestly, I highly do recommend it. We've got Martin Carrillo who says here, which WWE theme do you guys grow up with? Me personally, I grew up with Cena's Thugonomics, American Badass from The Undertaker, and Jeff Hardy's No More Words. Some fantastic tunes there, by the way. Ovi, I mean, you've been a fan like me for quite a while. What would be the ones that you grew up with that really meant something to you?
The Road Warriors. Or the Legion of Doom. I'm seeing them both on independent wrestling, NWA to WWF. But those were the guys. Hulk Hogan. I was a Hulkamania myself, and Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat was my favorite. Let me see. Wow. I mean, I got a lot, man. I'm like I said, you talking about growing up. Growing up, I was an '80s kid. So, but I had a lot of favorites, man. But Hulk Hogan was the man. He was that guy that was always on TV. Hulkamania this, Hulkamania that. That took over. I mean, wrestling now is different. I mean, if I was growing up in this era right now, I would have too many superstars because I don't even know. There was no favorite. Everyone has something, and you got superstars that will be heel one day, babyface another. In the 80s, it wasn't even like that, And then the storyline with Randy Rotchman Savage and Elizabeth, that was a great storytelling there. So those were my favorites.
Yeah, there were some classics back in the day. And like you say, Hogan, whatever, people think of Hogan, that song that every time you hear it, you sing along to it. There's just no argument of that. Hogan's theme song was one of the best ever with that. And I mean, for other ones, for me, that I'd say, I mean, you said Legion of Doom, that was epic as well back in the day. Bret the Hitman Hart, I loved that one as well. A little obscure one, Tatanka. Why not? I was a big Tatanka mark back in the day. And of course, Shawn Michaels, that song, we still sing along with it today. It's awesome. So yeah, those would be my shouts there for you. We've got another one in for official TNT 2K with the King of the Ring tournament rumored to return this year. Should it go to up-and-coming talents this time around? The winner being like some of these guys, perhaps Angel Garza, Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Chad Gable, Murphy. Those are a lot of up-and-coming talents. Would you like to see it to go someone like that or more of an established talent?
Shinsuke Nakamura. I think he's the one that's telling everybody he's going to be the next king, and he deserves it. I think that man should be the king. And I'm just curious to see what's going to happen next on SmackDown between him and King Corbin.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly he is the king of strong style, so that certainly would be a nice shout. I like seeing up-and-coming superstars win those particular ones. I'm not sure if maybe some of these names would be necessarily ready in this current market of WWE's booking, but what I would say is that we mentioned it already. I like Money in the Bank going to a heel because of the fact that that's kind of like a heel move to cash in. King of the Ring usually gets a title opportunity. Doesn't have to do the King gimmick if you go back to the 90s, early noughties. So I'd like to see Damian Priest win it because that's a guy that I think as a babyface is marketable and you could push him up the card really, really well with that. So Priest would be my personal shout right now. But we've got a few more questions in there before we wrap things up. We'll just get a quick look how many we've got. We've got about 6 or 7 here at the moment, perhaps maybe slightly more there, actually, maybe 8 or 9. So sorry, Ovi. But
no, you're good. You're good. I love it. Keep it coming.
Ricochet as a heel, like The Rock was back in the Attitude Era, would be money. Would you like to see Ricochet as a heel?
Well, the way the storyline is built right now, I'm not liking Ricochet. Like, why are you stealing other men's clothes? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Somebody enlighten me why that would be something like, oh, guess what? He's going to turn heel. Why? Because he stole another man's clothes? What's that?
I don't know. Maybe there was a sale. I don't know. It's not... Times are hard, I guess. It's hard to know, really, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a one. But Ricochet has done the heel stuff briefly in Lucha Underground, if I'm not mistaken, in most of his time as babyface. But I think he had a couple of moments where people were a bit unsure with him, I think, with his program of Rey Mysterio. So for me, I would say, looking at that Ricochet, I think Ricochet would be quite interesting. I think he did it in New Japan as well. Just to see some attitude, something from him. I agree. It would be money. Certainly be more money than the presented Ricochet we are getting now, because there's definitely a talent within there. And what will Triple H point to next? The Hollywood sign or Disneyland? Of course, going to all the photos as well. Yeah, I'd like to see him like in a tourist, like a weird tourist destination. I don't know, pointing all different things like that. Like you said there, I think it'd be quite fun to see. But yeah, we'll go on to our next question from Martin Carrero. What 2 feuds would you guys fancy book for Hell in a Cell? One from SmackDown and one from Raw. Okay, interesting. Ovi, should I give you SmackDown or should I give you Raw? Let's give you SmackDown. I feel because you were saying about the personalists with the Usos earlier. I'd like to know your thoughts on it.
Well, let's put it this way. Hell in a Cell. It depends. If it's, are we going to have a 6-man battle inside of Hell in a Cell, or we're going to have one-on-one? If it was SmackDown, that's you're killing me there, man. Because there's so many options. Who's going to be next? Who's going to be next to take on Roman Reigns? That is the key question, right?
In my opinion, I think it's Jimmy Uso. I think he's not falling in line. I think if I had to predict, and I did a video on this actually, so it's on the channel. So I'm saving a few people a bit of time here having to go and check that out. But if you want to go and drop it a like, I still would appreciate it. Yeah, literally, we're going to have Roman Reigns versus Jimmy Uso. It could play off the basis of what they had with the storyline with Roman and Jay last year. It could be a Hell in a Cell match, and I Quit Hell in a Cell match. And what you could do is, if Jimmy wins, he becomes the head of the table like Roman Reigns. If he loses, he's got to join and fall in line like the right-hand man is Jey Uso. But here's the twist to last year. Jey Uso is the special guest referee. He makes the ultimate call of who quits. So does he help Jimmy to get himself out of the family and get himself, away from the bloodline, and they reunite the Usos tag team? Or is he really that much in with Roman Reigns that actually to the point that he wants Jimmy to be alongside? Even if it makes Jimmy miserable at the start, he thinks it's the right thing for the family long term. So that would be my booking strategy if I was to do a SmackDown Hell in a Cell match.
Why not have brother versus brother?
That would work really well.
I'd rather have that before we even reach to Roman Reigns, have brother versus brother match. We've seen it before. We've seen it with the Hart family. You know, we've seen it. I mean, they're not actually brothers, but we did see The Undertaker and Kane go at it. So why not have the Usos go at it one-on-one and have their family, their parents come in and be like, hey, man, we need to squash this real quick and let's get back to being the tag teams. I think we need that. Brothers fight. That's the thing. And yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, because this is a discussion we're going to have next Wednesday. Brothers do fight. I have a brother, and I know there's somewhere that all the listeners there, if you got brothers, you mean to tell me you never fought your brother? I'm sure you have, whether it's that sharing toys or he got this and he got that or whatever jealousy might make somewhere down the line, brothers always fight. Why not have it? That's your wrestling answer right there. the Usos will battle each other. It's got to happen.
I like it. We're saying fantasy book. So we're fantasy booking. So this is the Raw side. Just before we move to the next question from me. So many people said they wanted to face Bobby and Lashley. You mentioned the 6-man. It's been a long time. Let's have a Hell in a Cell, an Armageddon style Hell in a Cell, just like we had back in Armageddon 2006. People going for the championship. Drew McIntyre being one of them. Kofi won this week as well. I mean, so you could put him in that scenario. The New Day and Rated RK Bro seem to have something going on. Let's get Randy Orton and Riddle in there. And, I mean, let's get someone else in there to round it off. Maybe someone like a Braun Strowman or a Sheamus, that sort of thing to round things off. It could be quite destructive. I think that it's been over 20 years since we've seen that. Would you be a fan of seeing an Armageddon Hell in a Cell match?
No, we need that. Absolutely. They got to be creative on this one. This standardized one-on-one Hell in a Cell is not kicking it. I want to see people on top of the cell and somebody getting slammed on top and fall right straight down to the middle of the ring. That's exactly what we need.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we've got official TNT 2K. Give us the Cruiserweight Classic. I think that's responding to a question we had earlier, which we would say. I'd agree with that. I enjoyed the Cruiserweight Classic. It's been 5 years since we had that, Ovi. Can you believe?
5 years.
Yeah, crazy. 2016 it was. It's TikTok,
wow.
just like Karrion Kross said, we're getting older. It's a shame to see. And the Miz being out for 9 months. We need to see John Morrison from the Indies, bring him over to NXT. I know that it's the weight limit, but against Santos Escobar would be fine. Them two would have an epic match. Actually, I do agree. I mean, John Morrison has that lucha libre experience as well, being in Mexico for a while in his career. That could be fun to play off that history.
You know what? That could be an awesome match, and I wouldn't even consider saying cruiserweight or weight limit. Santos Escobar did have a match with Karrion Kross, so you could throw that out the window. But I like to see Morrison and Escobar. That would be a great fantasy match right there. Absolutely.
I would agree indeed there. We forgot one when we said earlier. Marta Correa, I think, is bang on the money. Bianca Belair has probably gained the most. I can't argue with that. Bianca has become main eventing WrestleMania. So, yeah, we gave some good names earlier, but Bianca, I think perhaps maybe you've topped us with that one. And Riddle, no doubt, as well. Even those two, and even Sheamus, I believe, will be another two great shouts as well there. But certainly, there's quite a lot of talent have benefited from the draft. Naomi to Joan Roman Reigns in a stable. I think that's going off your Money in the Bank suggestion earlier on. Would you like to see Naomi join the Bloodline? Have a female member?
I don't. No, I honestly, I mean, she's not even in the picture now. I don't foresee her being in there. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't, unless there's more females involved and then they have their own faction to join in with the head of the table. I just don't see it. I really don't. I think we're doing a little bit too much.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough indeed. I think eventually we could get all the family in some format, but definitely I think one member at a time. I think perhaps long-term rather than short-term if he was to do something like that. But Marta Correa, again, do you think that both Money in the Banks should be won by SmackDown superstars? And if it were to be Raw, they had both last year. And a woman heel actually from NXT should win it. That's an interesting possibility. Someone from NXT coming to win Money in the Bank. I had a suggestion of someone actually cashing in on NXT on my last Q&A I did on the weekend. Well, you said about a Raw superstar you could see, perhaps like a Damian Priest or Keith Lee actually doing it over, didn't you, earlier on? So I suppose you would say a Raw superstar would be more likely than a SmackDown. I do lean on SmackDown for the men, but how would you see it going this year? I mean, we said Naomi there as well. So do you see both going to Raw again this year then?
Well, I mean, I'd rather have a babyface this time around because we got two heels as champions. So you would expect somebody that's a babyface or a tweener, right? So you set up Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens will be a perfect example to win the Money in the Bank. You know, Damian Priest is another. My pick will be Damian Priest. You know, Keith Lee, again, health issues. Hopefully he'll be back. A lot of people expected him to be the guy to come back on Monday Night Raw. That didn't happen. So we don't even know what's going on. They've been so quiet about it. But I got to give it to 1-1. But if it's an NXT superstar, I would like to see Johnny Gargano.
Oh, yeah. That would be the way.
Or Tommaso Ciampa. You know, bring them back. You know, I like that diversity. I mean, if they're a brand, right? Why not join the fun?
Hey, more the merrier, I guess, isn't it? But, it could be fun to see. We've got a few comments here. I just want to say, actually, that Nubico has actually said, have to agree with Ovi about Oscar turning heel on Raw. Oscar's a terrible babyface. What if Oscar is a heel on SmackDown? I personally think that Oscar needs a change of scenery, and I think a heel turn as well will be good. I think that this screams money. Oscar, heel, SmackDown ticks all the boxes for me. Ovi, does it for you as well?
Absolutely. And if this is something that Asuka is going to be the same character she was at NXT, she's going to make the run for her money. She could get that SmackDown title and run with it all the way till the next WrestleMania.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Batman 901 and Batman 901, so good, named it twice. When should WWE turn Bianca heel? For me, not anytime soon. I am thoroughly enjoying what I'm seeing right now. I would say I'd even go as far as saying this needs to happen in about a year and a half, 2 years from now, if it happens at all.
I agree with you there. It's too early to even determine that. I mean, she has the fan base. She has everything going awesome for her right now. It is too early. And besides, everybody else she's going against, they're all heels. So why turn her heel?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We're on the last couple of questions now, so we'll do those, and then I've got one question for Ovi to close off the show, and then we will close off there. So we've got about another 10 minutes we're going to roll here. I don't know how we're going to do this exactly, New, but I appreciate the effort of the question here. What's your favorite cinematic matches from last year? Rank them from best to worst. That could be the hard part, is remembering all of them to begin with. But let's go with, I think, a couple of your favorites, and if there's one that's not a favorite, I think will probably be the ones that I'll get from you here, Ovi.
Cinematic match. Well, you got to go back to WrestleMania 36, right?
Yeah.
You got to go back to The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. It was awesome, right? Great cinematic, a great way for The Undertaker, knowing that he probably didn't have it in the ring. I loved it. It was awesome. I mean, I could pick that one or John Cena, because a lot of people were questioning how the whole thing. If you got to know the old school WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania, right? And know the history of what Bray Wyatt was doing in order to eliminate John Cena. But my favorite was The Undertaker.
Yeah, I think that'll be my favorite as well there. I will give you my least favorite ones just to bring some negativity to us. We got the worst ones. I really hated the swamp fight at Extreme Rules. I thought that was with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. I was not a fan of that at all. That one didn't work for me. Did it work for you?
So on my show, every time we make predictions, right? And then we give them the HHW Show title. And I believe you and I have been finishing second and letting my other hosts win it, right?
We're very kind.
Yeah.
It's just what we do. We're generous guys.
It came to that match was like, well, who won?
Yeah.
Like, who won? Yeah. What happened to Braun Strowman? Did he get out the water? Is the match still going? Whatever happened and just left us hanging. So, that was my least favorite.
Yeah, that's definitely my least favorite. I wasn't a big fan of Gargano Ciampa either in that empty arena. It was a long match. It was a good match, but I think it went too long with nothing around it. That didn't really connect for me. So that would be another one of mine. Also, I'll just say very quickly, just before we go to our next question, one I just think stood out for me as well, Stadium Stampede from AEW. That was awesome. I'm so happy they're bringing it back this year. I think that should be awesome for Double or Nothing when that comes along. Martin Carrillo, ever since AJ debuted back in 2016, why hasn't WWE since that moment decided to make big debuts on the main roster instead of them going through NXT? Fantastic question, because not everybody needs to go through NXT, do they?
No, I feel like NXT is for superstars that are brand new. Like they don't have that much experience and they just go through NXT first before they go to the main roster. I think that's the best approach. I mean, look what NXT stands for, the next generation.
Absolutely. I love a shock moment here and there. I mean, if there is someone that's got that experience that's been, AJ didn't need to do his time in NXT. We don't know how many years he had.
AJ was already phenomenal. Everybody knew who AJ Styles was. So it's not like, why can he not go to NXT? Absolutely not. He was ready. He was ready.
Absolutely. And I think they should get the odd surprise here and there. I think it would be nice to see.
And besides, he was already in WWE before he went overseas.
Absolutely. Just quick before we go to that one here, Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, the House of Horrors match in 2017 was terrible. Yeah, it was. That was a painful one. I actually must admit, I watched a Bray Wyatt Randy Orton match from Backlash 2016 for my review. Randy Orton was unable to compete. It was just a 10-second match via count out and forfeit. Probably the best match those two have had, sadly. But yeah, it is what it is. We've got Alicia Stansbury. Do you think that Tammy deserves a single championship? Best for Tammy scene? I'm not sure of Tammy. You may have to go for me. Over, you aware of Tammy?
I don't know Tammy. Sorry.
No.
Who
Sorry.
Tammy?
Give us a bit of detail from Tammy. Where's she at? Because I don't think I've seen this one. So yeah, you'd have to fill me in there in the comments there. But we've got one more then from official, unless we get a last question from Alicia. This will be the last one we take. So we have one topic to point I want to touch on before we finish off. Here's a question for you both. While we're talking about who's going to dethrone Roman Reigns, most of you are wanting Karrion Kross, but what if the was to push the Volta button to dethrone Roman Reigns? I mean, we said about Volta earlier being an absolute megastar. Would you like to see Volta being the one?
No. And the only reason why is because he already fell flat on his back during the Survivor Series. And until he gets to the main roster and fights like Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, let me see how he does with them two before he goes up to Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. I think those matches would be epic, by the way. So I'd be very much down for seeing those. But for me, we're saying about dethroning Roman Reigns. I just don't want to see him lose the title anytime soon. That's just how I feel at the minute. I feel he's amazing.
Yes, I doubt it's going to happen anytime soon. And I'm going to stick to my gun here. The only person really that's going to dethrone him is Seth Rollins. When, where, that is the question.
That is the $1 million question. Well, as you can see, Tamina. Okay, so I've jumped in before. She says Tamina deserves being a singles champion. There we go. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's late where I am. All right, I'm very sorry. It's 2:00 in the morning where I am right now. This is going crazy, but yeah, I think Tamina. Yeah, it's been a long time. I think she definitely deserved it. Definitely, it was great to see her get that moment on SmackDown. I love the fact they made such a big deal of it as well for her. I mean, she's been with the company a long time. Really emotional moment. Yeah, I was really pleased to see it. Over, were you the same?
Yeah, I was pleased, but I still wish that she becomes the women's champion. You know, singles competition all the way. She had an opportunity against Bayley. That didn't happen. But how many more chances can she get to prove herself that she is worth being a champion? You know, she's a tag team champion. I got it. But that's not quite the actual title that you want to leave W and say, hey, I was a tag team champion. No, I want to leave as a real champion, and she deserves it.
Yeah. Absolutely, indeed. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think she deserves the singles championship. This hopefully can be the platform that elevates her to that next level. So for me, that would be the case. Then this will be the last question I take then here. And hang on, just got that there. Props to you guys staying late. Head of the table would be happy. I hope he would be. I hope he'll acknowledge me. I really hope he would. But somehow I feel Roman's not aware that I'm there.
I think he might tell you acknowledge him. So
probably more than I do on SmackDown every week. But give us a worse debut than the gobbledygooker to WWE.
I don't know. I mean, the worst debut. I don't know. Maybe Rose, Alex Rose. Am I saying this right? The guy that was dancing all the way around always with the rabbit.
Oh, yeah, Adam Rose.
Adam Rose. That's right.
Yeah, that was not a good one.
That one, I mean, I don't know.
I think there wasn't one called Kilcarney back in 2009. He lasted like a couple of months and he was fired. Mordecai would be one that comes to mind. That was a god-awful gimmick in 2004. What else is there? There's quite a number of them. The zombie in ECW and the zombies this past weekend. Let's leave that on zombie. You can't get worse.
No, you got to forgive WWE. I mean, they're doing a promotion on the movie that's going to come on Netflix. So you got to give them that.
I give him that, but it turned what was a 10 out of 10 pay-per-view to like an 8. I'm sorry, I can't forgive him for it, Obi. For me, it was too painful. I prefer the gobbledygooker versus the zombie in the next gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania. Book it now. I want to see that. That would be cool to see. And thanks for answering my questions. Take care, so thank you so much, Official TNT. We're going to have one last thing that we're going to touch on very quickly before we go because we haven't been asked about it. So I'm going to ask Obi to finish on the show, and it's in my title of the video, so we should at least touch on it. What's the I want to know if you want to see KofiMania 2 because Kofi won this week on Raw. It did cause a bit of a stir because Kofi, I think some people were a bit underwhelmed by it. But if Kofi was booked correctly, do you think that Kofi 2.0 or KofiMania Backlash, if you want, could be a thing?
I'm gonna say no.
That's fair.
And the reason why is you have a storyline already built up for New Day versus RKO and Riddle, right?
Yeah, right now.
Then you're going to go at the end of the show to battle the champion, right? And there's always an interference with Drew McIntyre and everything else, yada yada, the trombone for Xavier Woods. But you also understand that while Kofi was the champion, he lost the title in about 8 seconds versus you know who, right? Well, Brock Lesnar. So to see KofiMania 2 again, and then to see them almost have that rematch at the Royal Rumble last year, I'm not sold anymore for Kofi being WWE champion. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fair, man. That is fair. For me personally, I would be in favor of seeing it if he was booked correctly. I think, like you said, though, let's take it from then because you make a fantastic point. Because when Kofi lost that championship, he slid back into the team. He slid down the pecking order. He didn't even try to go back for that championship. And I think that was a lost opportunity. That was a great opportunity to actually turn Kofi heel because he had all that time building up, and all of a sudden, people sort of turned on him a little bit after he lost in that quick succession. I think there's so much you could have done with Kofi Kingston, and I think that's a travesty. He's been kind of sliding along in the team. He's been a part of one of the best tag teams of all time. Let's not knock the New Day. Let's put some some respect in the name of Kofi Kingston and the New Day. And Kofi's won a lot of championships, but now he's got a win over Bobby Lashley this week on Raw.
He'll get destroyed again. He gonna lose. But what I'm surprised is that why not give an opportunity to Xavier Woods? He is just as talented.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be the guy. When the music hit, I was like, well, Kofi's wrestled. I thought it'd be Xavier, but it turned out being Kofi. And when I saw it was Kofi, I was like, well, maybe we're going to try the Kofi train again. Maybe we're going to try and do this. But I can understand for a lot of people, they weren't such a fan of it. For me, I think the idea for me was that Drew McIntyre actually cost Bobby Lashley the match, and Bobby was kind of, cheaply rolled up. It wasn't really, he was beaten. Right. So I think when you look at Roman on SmackDown, Roman has Jay, Roman has Jimmy. Roman doesn't lose because he's got the people around him. When Bobby Lashley had the Hurt Business, the guy didn't lose. He had that one time as well, I suppose, with Riddle, where it was a quick one, but he didn't lose. But now he's not got any people backing him. So how do you build your challenger up properly if, Bobby Lashley doesn't take a pinfall here and there? Because Roman has Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso to lose here and there to build up your challengers. So that was my kind of side on things. And I think Kofi's not going to win the championship. I don't expect him to get that big push. But I think now he's won that match, he does deserve a championship match on Raw at least in the next week or so. Would you agree?
I agree. I mean, if you already got the victory, you might as well now go one-on-one and add whatever stipulation to it. But Bobby Lashley is not going to lose that title. And we're going to probably see Drew McIntyre, another rematch for Hell in a Cell. I mean, it's destined to be that way. It's just the fact that will somebody else come in? Will Braun Strowman come back? And stuff like that. But I doubt it. I think it's going to be a straight up singles match. Get it over with. But Bobby Lashley is still going to remain the WWE champion.
I think so, indeed, then. I think so. Last couple of comments that we've got coming in, then we're going to end the stream there. Official TNT 2K, what about instead of KofiMania, we get KO Mania, but him winning the world title? I personally would love to see it, or if not, KofiMania versus KO Mania. That's definitely a Mania match for next year, would you not say?
I agree with you 100%, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do that even earlier than that.
That would be interesting to see indeed. And of course, the last one there, worst debut ever NXT call-up period. There you go. That's a nice bit of banter to finish us off there.
Hold on for a second. Let me start writing down all the names.
We could be another hour and a half, I think, if we did that. So I think we're going to call that. But thank you so much to everyone that's been involved, man.
Yes,
it's been so much fun, and it's been great having everyone in with their comments, their questions. Thank you so much to everyone that's been involved. Just say as well, everyone in the community, you've probably seen it going across the bottom of the screen to get in the community tab and actually vote on the SCW Rewind Retro Review, which is going to be the next one. It's going to be announced tomorrow. The poll has been up for a few days. So if you want that show that you want seen on the screen being reviewed, you need to go and vote now before tomorrow, because I will be announcing the winner on the channel tomorrow. It's all classic In Your Houses, as they announced that In Your House will be coming back for NXT as a takeover. So go and vote your favorite In Your House on the community tab right about now. But before you do that, let me just say, Muniz, thank you so much, Ovi, for coming on here.
No,
it's been
great to have you on.
Thank you. Been a lot of fun. And everyone, go and subscribe to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. Go to the HHW Show on YouTube. The link is in the description, actually. Just click on that. Go to his channel, subscribe. He's back next Wednesday. The podcast will be in full force. You cannot miss it. You don't want to miss it. And I'd like to say, more videos will be coming up on the channel during the week, so make sure to keep an eye out here on SCW as well. Make sure to hit the thumb up. It's really important to hit the like button, to leave a comment after the video as well. It's great for the YouTube algorithms. I know it's boring, but it really does help the channel grow, so really do appreciate it. But that's all from us anyway. Have yourselves a great day and enjoy whatever you're doing, and we'll see you all next time. That's it from Ovi and from me. You've been watching SCW Live.